People advocating that we set society up in a way where women are primarily wives and mothers don't value women. They value women's bodies. They value what they can get from women's bodies, like sex and children. And what the feminists fighting against this idea are saying is that we are more than bodies. We have value completely irrespective of what our bodies can do.
I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. You know, it's so interesting because I lived in Manhattan for a while and I loved this city. I'm going to come at this from a female voter because a high percentage of his voters were female. I think there's a tendency, especially when you live in a city like Manhattan, where, again, you are so career-driven and you almost look to the government as a form of replacement for certain things, relationship-wise even. So you see things a little bit differently. What I don't want to have happen is young women in the city, will look to the government as a solution to put off having a family or a marriage because you're relying on the government to support you instead of being united with the husband where you can support yourself and your husband can support and you can guys all combine together. But I just find it so ironic and so interesting that a heavy percentage of the individuals that voted for him were female.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Life Take Two. I'm Jenny. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there on YouTube, and I always appreciate you stopping on one of my videos. I promised you a part 2 of my response to Erika Kirk's insane interview at the Deal Book Conference, and this is it. And I have to warn you, I may not be as polite this time because I've had a couple more days to think about it and listen to it. So I'm a little bit past polite. Jenny with a filter is going to walk right out the door for a minute. Here we go. Erika Kirk is to MAGA what Ghislaine was to Epstein's Island. And I am sick to death of women like this. I'm sick to death of women who use their wealth, their beauty, their polish, their proximity to power, and their respectability to sell cages to other women. History has always had a very lucrative role for these women. They're more effective than the brute. They're more alluring than the warlord. They're more warm and fuzzy than the predator at the front of the operation. They're the ones who make it look safe, the ones who smile, the ones who reassure, the ones who say, honey, this is good for you. You're going to love it. And that is why Erika Kirk is feeling so dark. We're all seeing it. Something doesn't seem right with her. And it's because she's probably dissociating full time to spit the words out of her mouth that aren't true for her at all. That's now her job. My granddad used to tell me, Jennifer, you attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. I brought a picture of my granddad today. It's show and tell. If Pete Hegseth is the vinegar, Erika is the honey. She's a fly trap, and she's luring women to her in droves, and it all feels so off. She's not speaking as a widow in crisis. She's not speaking as a woman trapped in poverty, relying on the government now that her husband is gone. She's not speaking from any type of authenticity. She is speaking as a recruiter for an ideology that feeds on women's labor, bodies, and silence. And she's doing it all with her big Tammy Faye Baker smile. Let's start with what Erika actually said about Mamdani voters. She said it was ironic that so many women voted for him. She said, career-driven women in Manhattan look to the government as replacement for certain things relationship-wise. She warned that women are relying on the government instead of uniting with a husband. That's her framing. Now here's mine. The government didn't replace men. Men abandoned their posts. When women in New York City do rely on public support, those of them that do, it's almost never because a woman woke up one day and thought, you know what I'd love instead of a partner? Bureaucracy. It's because a father didn't provide education stability or a real launch into adult life for his daughter. It's because a husband or baby daddy didn't stick around. It's because a boss didn't promote, protect, or pay fairly. It's because a landlord raised the rent until survival required assistance. Society has failed all of us women. This patriarchal power system that's in charge today has failed all of us. Women don't run to the government because they hate men. That's not even a real thing at all. They run because the men who promised to provide disappeared. That's how I found myself in line at DES filling out an application for my SNAP card. I keep this on my desk right here to remind myself of the horror of my not too distant past. Seeing this every day motivates me to work my ass off. I worked for 24 years as a trad wife, and my goddamn husband abandoned his family and left us dependent on the government. Fuck him and your ex-husbands who did that to you. Here's the part patriarchy never wants any of us to say out loud. Patriarchy wants husbands to be the only safety net. That's why the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, and Turning Point USA, and all the wacky pastors and the Mormon prophet and those weirdos who fetishize trad wife influencers want. Here's what it doesn't want: public health care, public childcare, public housing, public education, public food systems. You get the picture. Why? Because if women have a backup plan, they can leave. If the only safety net is a man, then women do the work the men need us to do, and we're trapped. That happened to me for 24 years. Abuse is easier. Control is easier. Obedience is easier. That's what they want. The government in New York City didn't replace husbands for single women. It broke the monopoly. My food stamps kept me safely away from my abuser because at least I could eat. I didn't have a home, a lot of other stuff, but I could feed my babies. Now let's correct another lie buried in Erika's stupid argument. The government does not replace relationships. The government supports society. And married women benefit from that as much as single women do. Married women use public schools, public roads, fire departments, police, child tax credits, Medicare, Social Security. They benefit from having a mayor and a parks and recreation department. They get all sorts of benefits. That's not distinctive to single women at all. If a married woman's house is on fire, she can call 911 for free. By the way, 10 out of 10 recommend that. I had a heat stroke in August. Kevin had to call 911 because I was going in and out of consciousness. And the only memory that I do have from that day is a really unnecessarily good-looking fireman with a very glossy butterscotch colored mustache strapping me onto a stretcher. 5-star review. Nobody calls that replacing husbands when a woman drives on a roadway that's funded by public money provided by the government that they glean from the citizens via taxes. But when women use food assistance, housing support, and Medicaid, suddenly it's framed as moral failure, sexual failure, relational failure. That tells you everything. This isn't about government. It's about who is allowed to be a dependent without being shamed. And now I'm going to say the part that makes people uncomfortable. Erika Kirk is a liar, a pretender, and a fake, and she's not really speaking as a woman, saying exactly what the men want her to say. Every woman elevated under Trump is selling what the men want sold. Erika lived a very different life than everything that she's promoting. That's one of the things that we're noticing, is that the words out of her mouth aren't the reality of her life. She was independent. She lived as a single woman in New York. She functioned as a feminist in reality from the time she was young. But then she entered the cult. She married the cult leader, and her message changed. I have scoured through everything publicly available that has come out of Erika Kirk's mouth in her entire life. And I'll tell you, Erika Franzfa, before she met Charlie, she was very religious, but she was very feminist. Then she meets Charlie and everything changes because she just married the cult leader.
We've basically told a great generation of young women, don't get married, don't have kids, go get a corporate job. And it's created mass political hysteria. And then in their early 30s, they get really upset because they say, the boys don't want to date me anymore because they're not at their prime. And people get mad when I say that. Well, it's just true. If you're in your early 30s, I'm sorry. It's like you're not as attractive in the dating pool as you were in the early 20s. But again, you have your corporate job and cats. So I thought,
Now she stands there robotically on stage trying to remember the lines that she's supposed to say, reading from the script written for her by men. She's just regurgitating the message of the Heritage Foundation, telling women to submit. Charlie Kirk's stupid book about winning back the West, the movement that believes women belong at home, producing the next generation and keeping those home fires a-burning. And this system that Erika is the front person for is not just sexist. It is class warfare wrapped in Jesus. It's white supremacy disguised as family values. And nobody knows this better than an ex-Mormon who was taught that families are forever and black skin is a curse in the same goddamn Sunday school class. And that's why this all feels so weird coming from a woman, because it is weird. Now, here's my lived truth. I trusted a man more than a system. I united with my husband. And when that man failed, the system kept me alive and fed, and at least I had milk in the fridge. So no, the government didn't replace my husband. My husband quit. Fuck him. And when men quit at scale, women do not become bad or immoral. They become survivors. So here's the correction Erika Kirk doesn't want me to make, and the Heritage Foundation doesn't want me to make, and Donald Trump doesn't want me to make in the Mormon church. And, just fill in the blank with everyone in the patriarchy who's currently throwing temper tantrums, trying to take back America and lasso the women. Women aren't choosing the government over men. Women are choosing survival over generational abandonment. And the real culprits aren't women who need help. The real culprits are capitalism that destroyed tribes, big government that hollowed out the economy, big business that stripped opportunity, and men who walked away while still demanding loyalty. You don't get to abandon your post and then blame the people who had to build shelter without you. But that's exactly what the men have done. And they're now hiding behind Erika Kirk's skirt. And this is why women like Erika are so dangerous. Not because they break the law or anything like that, but because they soften the path into a system that feeds on women. Every predatory structure needs a pretty face. I used to play that role for the Mormon church. Me and my family have beautiful children and my beautiful home and my beautiful smiley face. I was luring people into my lifestyle so the Mormon church could take 10% of their income and make them labor slaves and make them have babies for the church. Every predatory structure needs a welcoming face, someone who says, this is safe, this is moral, this is good for you, you're going to like it in here. That role has always existed, and because I used to play this role myself, I'm probably not going to be quiet about it anymore, because mark my word, the most dangerous cages are the ones built by people pretending to save you. I will be hanging out in the comments to hear your thoughts on this speech. Just a reminder for all of you who are Christmas shopping, I've designed a line of amazing feminist-friendly merch with a non-toxic male line to go with it. That link will be down in the description. Thanks for watching.